We are talking about Risurah, baby. That's right. The barbarian dung collector is back, here to take your shit and put it into my possession, into my hoard, because it's for me and you can't have it, you fucker. Anyway, talking about Risurah. So usually, haha, this is where I would go into, the facts, like going down, starting off with parentage, dogma, all of that. However, one thing I want to get out of the way really quick is that Risurah is a very easy goddess to do wrong. And I have done Risurah wrong before myself. I've seen her done wrong very frequently, to the point where if you're going with a lot of the ways that people will run Risurah, you come to think like, oh, this is such a shitty goddess. This is like all these bangers in the 77 thrones, but she's just like a bitch. She's just like a progressive, feminist, woke whore. And it's not so much that it's wrong to ever portray something like that in a game if it fits in a game. I mean, in real life, I think things like human sacrifice, evil, completely unwelcome in any moral and civilized society. However, I play characters in role playing games who engage in human sacrifice. I played a Legionite. I've played a frickin' even like what would be called a more virtuous divinity in Kvegaflail, like Pelgan. I'm having non-human scum, executed in the holy name of Pelgan by God. Or like in Vampire the Requiem, all woke characters show up. I'll play an explicitly woke character if it's, in a modern setting, because that's something that exists, and I could see a lot of vampires using that. I think, sexual degeneracy is wrong, but I'm fine playing a satyr who goes and gets pussy. Sometimes he puts it in a guy's ass, whatever. It's the fantasy world. These things exist in it. We watch movies with bad things in it all the time. That doesn't mean you're supporting the bad thing, and especially in a game, you have plenty of bad things in it. But anyway, the reason it's shitty to have Risurah be woke and gay, and like modern rad feminism is not because those things are bad, and they are bad, but that's not the reason you don't put it in the game. The reason you don't put it in the game is because it doesn't make any fucking sense. Because it doesn't work in the setting, and because it creates this feeling that something is out of place, that something is messing with the verisimilitude. And that's one of the most important things in a game. And it's like, think about when you're watching like a medieval fantasy movie. Like, think about fucking, what's that movie about the Crusaders called? I haven't really watched the whole thing, but it like gets into existentialism, and it's like, at the end of the day, we're the same as the Muslims. But this is about fame. This is about standing up and saying, I fought. I was in the battle. And this is about heroism in a world that doesn't care about you. It's like, no, what the hell are you talking about? Like, none of them would have, they'd be like, yeah, we're here for God, for the glory of Jesus Christ. We're going to put to the sword these heathens and heretics. They're gonna talk and act like people from that time period. It's why 1981 Excalibur is such a good movie, because the story is presented in the way that a medieval mythological story would be presented. You don't have fucking King Arthur being like, "Whoa, that happened," or like a quip where the Morgan or whatever, or Morgan Le Fay, sorry, says something, and King Arthur goes, interesting point. But I have a counter, like, that would be gay. That would be gay. It wouldn't work. But so with Risurah, you really don't want her feeling like Risurah from the 1950s real world America. Risurah from fucking mod feminism. So you have to understand her in a pre-modern context of what she is in this mythical, pagan, pre-modern sort of framework for her to fit in the game. And when you do that, it becomes far more interesting. Her followers, they are the educated commoners, the scholars, the scribes, the cast aside nobles who develop too much empathy for the ordinary people, the warriors who became disillusioned with the leaders they were fighting for, and they are, they're not. They're going to be the guys gathering in the cabins, speaking, standing up, think like Socrates in these Socratic debates, and they're going to be talking about the voice of the unheard, the voice of the little people. Think of peasant revolts in the Middle Ages. This opposition to authoritarian, tyrannical rule. This opposition to unenlightenment, to a lack of education, to superstition, and the primitive violence, and to elitist, corrupt officials. And so that's something I wanted to get out of the way. Don't do her wrong. Don't make her feel out of place. So let's go through. So Risurah, the revolutionary princess. She is a daughter of Igvel and Morgul, sky and fire, and some of her dominions, anti-authoritarian, attempting to enrich others' lives, liberation, literature, philosophy, rebellion, revolution, enlightenment, selflessness, young adults. So that's the like think about those things in the world of Kvagathale. Not in modern real world terms, but in the world of Kvagathale, what is selflessness? It's putting your resources, your needs, your life on the line for others, acting out in what you do for the benefit of other people. Enlightenment, enriching people. You're trying to make sure that people end up with more work, more money. You're trying to make sure people are able to read. Young adults. These are the young warriors, the young nobility, the young farmers, young women who deal with instead of like threats like oh he didn't cancel the guy at the conference that I wanted him to cancel. Instead of that, they're dealing with rape, and they're dealing with being sold as political objects for alliances, and they're dealing with predation from barbarian men who are far stronger than them, and these realities that they have very good reason to want to find a solution for. Young freeing men who are dealing with being longhoused, who are dealing with having no voice and still being expected to go to battle for Roduland, who are dealing with overbearing mothers and restrictions, and Dagatakas who are dealing with, in my opinion, rightfully so, um, uh, discrimination for being born during the dawn. And many of them, well, a few of them might actually be good people, and so that might be unfair. Liberation. This is like this isn't like this modern concept of like where it's like, you know what? I want to be able to. I want to be able to live as a woman. Fuck you. Fuck you. No, this is about slavery. This is about the fact that there are numerous sex slaves in Quebec. That's who they want to liberate. They want to liberate the fucking massive amount of people in the cold cave being forced to do back-breaking labor with no hope of ever having any freedom or happiness in their lives. And they live these short, brutal, horrific lives of toil and torment. Fucking ogres who come in and they take, and they're like, rah, yeah, little women. And they take them and bring them to their tribes where they rape them and eat them. That's what they're talking about liberating people from. It's not like it's not modern fucking classical liberalism for the love for the love of chicken nuggets, man. Come on. And like rebels, this is like very simple, very straightforward. People try to like, what is a rebel? How would I define a rebel? Somebody who opposes the governing body and acts on that opposition. You dumbass. Uh, People who are other-minded. And so her holy number is 20. Her holy weapon is a spear, which I love because of the spear. It's the weapon of the common man. It's the weapon of the common soldier. Ordinary person can learn how to wield a spear. Just yep, yep, yep. Pretty simple. Her symbol, two hands bending bars. Another really cool symbol that looks like shit in the book. I mean, it looks like it was like fucking drawn in MS Paint. Like the bars, like oh my gosh, dude! Like I would show it to you if I could. It's so bad. It's so fucking bad. The drawing of the symbol of Risurah. It's horrible. It's horrible. It looks like shittily drawn hands holding two fucking boomerangs like this. It looks like some guy going like, yeah, like her gift to the world, philosophy and literature. Uh, so this is another interesting thing. Risurah isn't just the rebels of, we've got to free the slaves. We have to open the prisons. We have to destroy tyranny and authoritarianism. We must defeat evil and corruption. No, it's also learning. It's studying philosophy, debating, looking at the opposing views of others and taking them seriously, steel manning them. It's debates. It's studying history. It's studying uh, all sorts of topics and understanding why you believe what you believe. It's the libraries and the tomes and the people gathered to discuss intellectual academic topics of the time to understand the world better. And our servants are Socorro. They're actually I mean they're not drawn great. They're drawn okay in the Book of True Names, and I just always thought they look kind of hot. And I just wanted to say that. And they're okay, good. My camera is still on. Their sacrifices are open acts of rebellion in the face of tyranny, and also great works of literature. And the greatest offering is martyrdom in service to a cause. So to die to save people, to die to stand against tyranny, to die for the truth, for literature, to die for the rights of the people. These rights of the people in a pre-modern medieval sense, and the idea of the people who are upon the land, who live the thing about it in the Middle Ages, it wasn't like progressives versus traditionalists when something like this came up. It was like you have a village in a part of Somerset, England, where like they very much think of themselves as Somersetty people. They're Somersetty people of Somerset. They're of that region. That's what they know. That's their identity. And they're ruled by a British lord from a different part of England who himself is ruled by a French king. And that's what they would want to fight for. They would want to fight for, hold on a minute, we want to be ruled by the Somersetty. we want our ruler to have a stake in our people. And that's a view Risurans would have that in the modern real world might be seen as more traditionalist or conservative, but in Kvegathel would be a more libertarian, a more I don't want to use the word progressive because it just doesn't work in Kvegathel, but that sort of thing. Going against these strictures of these foreign conquerors and stuff. And her prayers can be said whenever the priest wishes, and I add that her prayers are said often and are almost always written down. I think that's something that makes sense that they write their prayers down. And for omens, I love this. They come in the form of sudden esoteric understanding from writings. It's a fucking cryptic dream vision. I mean, after you read, oh, just you see like like the fucking little dark age edit going through your mind after you read this, treatise on philosophy by some Weigish bitch. Her typical followers tend to be, among young Phrygians, Calphars, Maphdetes, and Hibbins. And many Weigish and human females follow her because, of course, they are being crushed by the patriarchy. Which I'm going to pretend during this video that I don't like that. Grr, patriarchy, men. And ceremonial dress. They have no special clothing, but they prefer yellow, green, and orange. They don't wear ostentation. They don't drape themselves in jewelry like a bunch of gay fucking aristocrats. The churches are simple but sturdy with little ornamentation. They all have books and scrolls. They're like these big fortified libraries. And they got warriors there, folks with spears, ready to defend the temple when the man comes to collect his due. The name of her day is the Day of Revolution. Her holy text is Revolutionary Freedom, which is basically this philosophical rant regarding the inborn rights of all intelligent creatures. So something else that can fit really well when you're thinking about the Enlightenment and rights and her view on liberation and anti-authority. You're thinking of like colonial era Christians who are like, we hold these truths to be self-evident. It's that sort of thing, the inborn rights of intelligent beings. So I'll go through her dogma a little bit. Nothing gives one the right to imprison or enslave another. All that are imprisoned or enslaved must be liberated. Crimes may be atoned for. Nothing is beyond forgiveness. Voice of the voiceless. Your voice must be loud. Never be silent in the face of injustice. All about writing, knowledge, and enlightenment. Fight against ignorance. It's the chains of tyranny. Never take more in life than you need, as excess is the road to tyranny, and tyranny is the greatest of evils. And a few of her acts of reverence, failing to remember that all have equal value. So there's this idea that it's not that they have a problem with the idea of there being a guy who's in charge of ruling an area. You could even have a Risurah go along with like a king or whatever. But it's that at the end of the day, the king, he's of equal human value or sentient value because you're dealing with different species as the farmer. Supporting a dictator is a sin. And again, this is not in the old days. We have this idea nowadays that dictator is equivalent to absolute monarch. That is not the way dictator was often meant in older times. A dictator is often seen as an unjust monarch or an individual who has irregular power that goes against certain other norms and spheres of influence. So in Rome, they would declare someone a dictator. That did not mean the head executive who had a lot of power. Those were the consuls. And they did have a ton of power, but the dictator just meant now we're going to basically go. For a while, we're going to treat like the Senate, the other executives, the other leadership, like they have no power. It's just this one guy. So that's what I take dictator to mean here. Committing acts of tyranny is a sin. Destroying knowledge and acting selfishly, those are sins. Failing to question leaders, even good ones. Refusing to, engage in debate, those are all sins. And there are two types of priests in a priesthood. There are the lore keepers and the chain breakers. And the lore keepers, which are more personally my favorite, what I find more interesting. They are the educators. They're the ones who are running libraries and teaching and spreading education and debating different ideas. And then the chain breakers, they are sort of the more martial component, fighting against authoritarians, fighting to free slaves, all that. uh, which is fun, and I like that being in a game. But honestly, if I'm going to be playing a martially inclined, violent cleric, it's not going to be a Risurah. Let me just say that. If I'm playing a Risurah, I'm going to want to play the intellectual, the philosopher, the writer. Uh, and she's often depicted as a female of the worshipper species, usually with long brown hair and hazel eyes. And of course, another difference between Risurah, and this isn't in the book, but this is something that I think makes sense. A difference between Risurah and modern progressivism is that Risurah should always be depicted as an absolute fucking baddie because freedom and liberty is supposed to be beautiful. There's no fucking body positivity in the Risurah movement. No fat chicks allowed in the revolution. And her avatar is Santir Ogyra. Oh yeah, she's in the Court of Freedom. But Santir Ogyra, she's a Vigish, and she was once a slaver before she was attacked by a group of Risurah's followers. Now she won, and they slaughtered the attackers, but she was deeply impressed with their passion. She took several books from their carcasses. But after reading the texts, she had a tremendous experience and gained esoteric understanding from the words. And she felt the chains of her society fall away and knew she could never chain another. So she decided to fight against the tyranny and the brutal hierarchy of the Vigish Empire. On her previous avatar, Eulilia, uh, hidden, was killed by a mass of goblins during the Shadow Purge, which is unfortunate, and also kind of funny to imagine. Just this him like, oh no, oh no, just this like librarian playing like goblins. Just killer. I don't know why I find that image funny in my head. This poor little owl person, like working the library and like educating people, all peaceful, and then just a bunch of goblins show up out of nowhere, just and they just start fucking. I love that it notes a mass of goblins, so they just condensed upon her. I don't know why that's funny, but it's really funny. And her greatest enemy is he who has many names, who is the divinity of prisons, putting putting everybody in jail. That's right, bitch. You're never getting out, and when you die, you're going straight to hell, where you're gonna be raped. Just awful, awful people. Who I play all the time. I fucking love. followers of Hugh has many names. They are brutal. And she also considers the other enforcers, Hob Apophis, Pelgan, the big mean man, Ormond, Sat, and Loptif to be your enemies. And this is another interesting factoid for all of you. When she so Sat is her enemy. This is another thing where she's different from this modern idea of progressive feminism, where it's not like it's not this super, like sex positive, go out and be a whore. No, no, no. Risurah is against that. Sex is supposed to be something freely given. It's a beautiful, consenting thing in Risurah's eyes, and she doesn't like the idea of it being restricted and turned into this transactional concept. So I like the idea of her opposing prostitution as a base and uneducated thing, and it's something that turns uh, um, something like sex into a transaction. That gives her an interesting dimension to oppose that. Of course, Loptif is her enemy because fuck Loptif, fuck that bitch, fuck you Loptif, fuck you. She has tensions between her and Dazazea because Dazazea, she's kind of base in a weird matriarchal way, and she also has had issues. This is a part I disagree with somewhat in the book. It's like she has issues with Lacedarnia as she views her as an instrument of female oppression. But like Lacedarnia's avatar is a Freyine, and in Freyine society, mothers are in charge. So like it's also Lacedarnia, if you're looking at Freyine society, is going to be a proponent of male oppression. So it's like Lacedarnia is not fucking Pelgan's bitch or something. Like I don't know. But I can see why she would be opposed to on both ends. In human society, women are oppressed, and Lacedarnia is cool with that. In Freudian society, men are oppressed, and Lacedarnia is cool with that. And of course, she has issues with Amake, also known as Cretera, who has played a number of tricks on her. Of course, Cretera do be fucking around, pissing off idealists like Risurah. And she has mixed feelings concerning Elsan. No, I will not elaborate. And her greatest friends are Quillicalian and Lemorpharang. I like that idea that she respects this farming class. Sorry, just a moment. Sorry about that, younglings. I had some nicotine in my mouth for too long. 15 milligrams. Man, I like this. She cares for the farming class, the farmers, the people of the land, the people who work the land. The common man. My God. And of course, she's friends with Lemora Farang as well. Lemora Farang is kind of the unforgiving, brutal side of Risurah's coin. But I think it's interesting that they're close friends, considering Lemora Farang is rather close with Hugh Has Many Names. She's fascinated by Cinder, Shy, Bacchus, and the Absolute Dragons. Pity for Sand, blah blah blah, skipping over some of this. And she sees the elder creators as obsolete, with the exception of opiate. So fuck you, mom and dad. Morgul, you're fucking destroying everything. You're a greedy whore, Morgul. You're trying to take over everything and burn it all down. And Igvale, what do you even do? What do you even do, Igvale? You don't even do anything. You're just air. You're just air. But like opiate, it's like, oh, that's so interesting. Thoughts, mind, empathy, ideas. Oh, that's fascinating. So it all to me makes sense for her character. I like her being fascinated by Cinder. Meanwhile, Cinder's like, revolution, you're cute. I'm the goddess of freedom. Of course, Bacchus talking to Risurah, like, yeah, no, I support, female, freedom. I think women should be able to have sex with whatever guy they want. And Risurah, if you want to have sex with me, I want you to know I'm okay with that. I'm not going to stand in the way of that. If you want to have sex with me, he starts letting off some pheromones. If you want to, Risurah, I'm cool with that. And then Shy, kind of this freedom goddess, going and sticking it to darkness followers. Uh, um, the absolute dragons, I find that kind of interesting because I get Satetequez, this divinity of courage, and but what's she like? What's she like being like, hell yeah, Golgith, the divinity of mining, yeah, like what's like this goddess of like revolution and liberty, and she's like, oh, Golgith, she's the dragon of mining, or like fucking like Mother Yurga. She's like, oh man, Mother Yurga fascinates me. Like, I kind of don't get it, and also like Ozzy Dahaka, like the divinity of brutally raping and killing people. I don't think she's that fascinated by that, or Thraga. Like, I don't know, man. Like, I get Ayurveda and Satetequez, her being fascinated by them. But, like, some of the other absolute dragons, I don't know. I don't know if Risurah would exactly be, like, that fascinated by them. But, whatever. Maybe she's just interested by the concept. So, yeah, I've gone through the basics. So let's roll with it a bit here. Let's have a discussion. Let's have a Socratic discussion where only I talk, which is the way I like it. So she is born of fire and air. Checking really quick if my camera is still working. It is delicious. So fire and air. So she has the freedom, the sort of open and adaptability and openness of sky, tempered by the burning passions of fire, by the uh, by the desires of the flame, and the fire rises higher, and it gives her power and will. So fire and sky, the fire upon the wind, sending the scent of liberty. Uh, um, and she's she philosophy and literature. That's something I'm gonna zoom in on. These are to me the really cool, interesting parts of Risurah. Philosophy and literature, that it's like her churches, her temples are going to be full of debate, and her clergy, they're not going to be preaching dogma. They're going to be preaching philosophy, and their church hierarchy. It's not going to be top down. It's not that there isn't a hierarchy, but it's not a vertical hierarchy. It's a horizontal hierarchy. So it's people stepping up, playing different roles. Uh, People respecting the higher caster status priests for their greater education, but those higher caster status priests making sure the lower level clerics have a say, making sure they speak up, and sort of taking these different views and going back and forth, debating them. Service, you go into a temple of Risurah, it's going to be like this, again, like this Socratic dialogue, where people are bringing up different ideas. They do have their priests, so they have the acolytes, who I imagine in the Church of Risurah, acolytes are like beginner students. So they're coming in and they're learning, they're reading some of the information being given by the higher rankers, for lack of a better term. Then you have the priests, and they're actually leading some of these discussions, starting the discussions. They're not the boss, but they're the leader in the discussion. So they're the one who brings up the topic of the day, and then people can bring whatever opinions and views they have on that topic. And then let me check something really quick. I'll make sure I get this term right. And then you have the, thaumaturges who are sort of they're working on developing some of the structure for what topics are going to be brought up. What's the curriculum? What are we going to be teaching the acolytes? And then the bishops, who are the ones running and operating these great libraries and academies, and sort of taking that managerial role there. And so there's still going to be that hierarchy there again, but again, more of a horizontal hierarchy, less of a vertical hierarchy, if you know what I mean. And if you don't, you're stupid. And so now let's talk about Risurah's followers and Risurah showing up in the game. Oh, actually, one more thing, because I want to mention many of the people who worship Risurah are not they're not going to be the monolactic, just purely worshiping Risurah, idealist, like Risurah is their main divinity. There's going to be plenty of Quilicalyonites who give praise to her, plenty of Bacchusians, people who worship various divinities. And in that case, it's a sort of different thing where they're going to occasionally go to the temple to learn and be educated, if there is a temple of Risurah there. But it's often going to be less so going to a church and engaging in this direct religion, and more so she's a name that is invoked. There's a statue of her in town, even if there's no temple. It's like this is a goddess of liberty. And whenever we are oppressed, whenever there is brutality against us, as we fight, we call upon Risurah, even if she's not our main divinity. And so she can have that role as more a background thing, or more as one divinity among many. The goddess of enlightenment, talking about as we read and educate ourselves, we look to Risurah to give us understanding of what we're reading. So talking about Risurah and her followers showing up in the game. So first we got to go through Risurah's agenda to talk about her personality. And it's stated pretty clearly in the book. She wants all slaves to be liberated. She wants all tyrants to be toppled. And she wants all to be educated. She wants all to understand literature and philosophy to the best of their ability, and to be able to understand their place in the world, to be able to hopefully reach for a better place. And she is this goddess that is equally sort of educational and martial, and so she's going to be showing up, and she's got passion, she's got drive, she's very direct and honest, um, and ready to fight for her dominions, but she's going to treat mortals, if she shows up to speak to them, with a degree of egalitarianism that you wouldn't see from other divinities. Now, she's still a goddess. She still wants worship. She gains power from her worship. She's not selfish. It's not power for power's sake, but for the things she's trying to do, it is good for her to be worshipped. Also, she's a divinity, and divinities get worship. This isn't some modern sense where there's some divinity going, where Thor's like, oh, Father, it's so unfair that they worship us. What? Don't you think this is kind of a weird system? Nobody's doing that. Fuck that. Fuck you. No, so it's this. She's going to show up, and she's going to, put her arms out, and she's going to embrace that worship. And as people bow to her, she's going to accept that. When you kneel and you praise her, she will say, stand upon your feet, so I can look upon you. As you have praised me and you have held my values in your heart, I bless you. And in this moment, your goddess speaks to you as an equal. And says, oh, Risurah, oh yes, and she'll listen, and she'll listen to the prayers, and she takes the prayers of her faithful into consideration, and she'll appear and this explosion of fire and winds that blow out, that draw all attention to her, as she often will come with a book in one hand and a spear in the other. And she will speak to the followers and educate them, touch their forehead, and they will have understanding of things they have read. And so, talking about her followers, so protagonist, antagonist, background force. So, starting as protagonist, it's pretty obvious the way they're going to be protagonists. These are freedom fighters, people out there fighting for liberty, trying to free slaves, trying to fight against evil and tyranny, and also beyond just catalysts. And this could be catalysts as well, but also a lot of the NPCs. Even if you're not as catalyst playing Risurans, in a protagonist role, these are going to be people who can give you exposition, not in an annoying video game way, but in a way that makes sense in the world, where it's like if you need to learn something about what's going on in the region you're in, about who has power, how people think in the region, you can go to if there are Risurans nearby, and they'll be happy to teach you, often for free, and sort of help you understand where you are, what's going on, so they can make great protagonists in that way. In a political game, the sort of Rizarin character I would play protagonist wise would be, the lore keeper. I would play like a Hibben or even like a Calfar studying books in academy, and understanding different philosophies and ideas and trying to pass laws and reforms that will encode into the legal system the rights of the intelligent people to prevent slavery, and to encourage rehabilitation. Now, as antagonists, I love having Rizarans be antagonists because if you have players who are still in that modernist mindset, which everyone needs to get out of, the correct mindset to have right now, uh, as at any times, is Dark Ages medieval. So remember that. But it's like, oh, we're building this society, but oh, these guys that in real life I would probably consider the good guys, they're kind of rebelling against me, and now I have to kill them. It's a good way to test their role playing ability. Are you like a are you playing your character, or are you doing what you would do? And so that could be a fun way to test that, to see if they really have their head in the game. And so, if you're playing, there's plenty of good divinities Reserve would oppose, and plenty of either you have to be a good person to be the protagonist, but you're Pelganites. You're trying to build a civilization. Some people gotta die. Some people gotta put into a hole, be imprisoned, and some of these people that we conquered that are trying to go against us, we have to enslave them. Yeah, we kind of have to enslave them. Or you're a Demarian, you're a follower of Demar. She considers your faith, life, stability. This is all obsolete. You're trying to preserve this structure of society, this natural hierarchy, and the Rizarans are going against that because they see it as tyrannical, and they're causing problems that allow the forces of darkness and evil to come in. And so you have to deal with the Rizarans. You have to set them right. You have to say, "Shut up, bitch!" And then or you're maybe playing a more devious character, a Legionite, and you're trying to get people sent to hell, and the Rizarans are going to be against that, and you're going to have to deal with that. You're playing a fucking Elysian, bringing law to the lawless. Fucking, uh, uh, I think that guy stole something. I think that guy stole something. Put him on a pyre. Put that fucker on a pyre. And they're going to be, you can't do that, and fighting against you and trying to rebel and go against this tyrannical constable that you are. But she can also make a great background figure, or followers can be great set dressing. Just think about it. You're in a big city, and whatnot. You've got in the common district or whatever, you have this library where Risurans gather. Just that's something you would walk into to make the world feel real, breathed in. Where these are scholars gathered. I'm talking about current events. Just out. Even if you're not someone who would be that opposed or aligned with Risurah, you'll just find them out preaching liberty and trying to get people to debate them, and calling out tyrants and something like, oh, you're walking through the streets of trade and you hear, the Vigish Empire is treating trade as their own personal treasury. The only reason they do not sack this city is because they believe it provides them wealth, and they restrict it and use it to fund their conquests and to fund their slavery. Just you hear that going on. Then you see a ogre walk up and just fucking, and some violence starts. So yeah, and so protagonist, antagonist, background force. So all in all, a pretty interesting divinity if done right. A very cool goddess. Can be very awesome to play as a hero following her or somebody opposing her forces. Can just work really well in all that games and can bring a lot of fire and a lot of passion to your saga. And you want fire and passion in your saga, because fire and passion, that's good. Those are good things. And you know what else is a good thing?